Comienza como una cita nocturna normal en Anchorage. 2 personas llegan a una tienda. Una entra a comprar bebidas. La otra espera en la camioneta. Pero esto no es una cita nocturna. Brian Steven Smith, de 48 años. La mujer que lo acompaña es Valerie Kassler. Valerie aún no lo sabe, pero la policía confirmará más tarde que Brian es un asesino en serie. Y lo que es peor, los investigadores creen que ya hay una víctima relacionada con él del día anterior. Las cámaras de vigilancia muestran a Brian y Valerie llegando a una tienda local en Anchorage, Alaska. Desde fuera, nada parece fuera de lo común. Simplemente, un hombre y su acompañante entrando en una tienda como de costumbre. Brian entra a comprar bebidas dejando a Valerie sola en la camioneta. En ese momento de tranquilidad, ella se agacha y accidentalmente toma un teléfono. No el suyo, el de Minomotis. Él. Al principio probablemente no parezca nada, solo una confusión. Pero ese pequeño error se convierte en una de las pistas más importantes del caso, porque lo que Valerie encuentra en ese dispositivo llevará a la policía directamente a la vida secreta de Brian. Y el primer detalle inquietante que resolvió el caso es lo que Brian grabó. 6 horas antes, Brian está en casa después del trabajo. Se toma un vaso de whisky y decide dar una vuelta en coche por Anchorage a altas horas de la noche. Cerca del supermercado Cars, en la esquina de Gamble Street y East 13th Avenue, ve a Valerie Kassler, de 52 años, parada junto a la carretera. Brian se detiene y le ofrece llevarla. Durante las siguientes horas, Valerie cuenta que pasan tiempo juntos, conduciendo, charlando e incluso parando en un aeropuerto para ver despegar los aviones. Es tarde. Parece una cita extraña e impulsiva, pero no peligrosa, hasta que se queda sola con su teléfono. Alrededor de las 2:00 de la madrugada, Brian se detiene en una gasolinera para usar el cajero automático. Entra y deja a Valerie en el coche otra vez. Mientras espera, a Valerie se le cae el teléfono al suelo. Al agacharse, recoge 2 teléfonos.
When I reached down, I grabbed 2 phones. And you get like that chill feeling, you know? Something was not right.
Valerie guarda el teléfono en su bolsillo. Mientras tanto, Brian, grabado en vídeo, compra aperitivos y bebidas en la tienda como si nada hubiera pasado. Durante las siguientes horas siguen pasando tiempo juntos. Finalmente, Valerie regresa a su tienda de campaña. Y es entonces cuando empieza a revelarse el segundo detalle inquietante. Valerie saca el teléfono y empieza a revisarlo. Al principio son detalles sin importancia. Contactos que no reconoce, números que no conoce. De repente se da cuenta, este no es su teléfono. Mientras lo revisa, encuentra una carpeta con un nombre que le revuelve el estómago. Homicidio Hotel Marriott Midtown Anchorage. Lo que ve dentro es tan perturbador que no entraremos en detalles gráficos aquí. Valerie sigue desplazándose. El contenido es consistente, la misma voz, el mismo tipo de imágenes. Y no se trata de un solo archivo, es un patrón. Entonces llega a algo que lo hace sentir dolorosamente real.
His voice and her body laying on the floor of the hotel. And he stepped on her throat and he said, "You're not leaving here alive. I'm killing you."
En ese momento Valerie comprende el peligro que corre, porque esto no es una carpeta de fantasía siniestra. Parece evidencia real de un daño real. Durante los días siguientes, Valerie siente terror incluso de salir. Se refugia en el bosque y se queda en su tienda de campaña, paranoica de que Brian se dé cuenta de que ella tiene algo suyo. Cree que si la encuentra podría convertirse en la próxima víctima. Pero finalmente, ella entrega la tarjeta SD y las grabaciones a la policía. Y cuando los detectives ven lo que ella trajo, comienza a surgir un tercer detalle inquietante, porque ahora no se trata solo de las grabaciones. Se trata de la cronología, se trata de las fechas, se trata del lugar y se trata del rastro digital que Brian dejó.
This was the worst thing I've ever seen happen to a human being.
Los detectives revisan las grabaciones una y otra vez, y uno de ellos nota algo: la voz, el tono, el acento. Les resulta familiar. Les recuerda a alguien relacionado con una investigación anterior. Ese nombre, Brian Steven Smith. Ahora los investigadores comienzan a reconstruir la cronología. Descubren que los restos humanos encontrados en el kilómetro 108 de la autopista Seward pertenecen a Kathleen Jo Henry, de 30 años. La investigación comienza a centrarse en Brian y el FBI se une. Entonces llega el momento que lo une todo.
The FBI told us, hey, his phone is hitting off a tower near mile 108, the Seward Highway. And also, there was a timestamp on one of the images with Kathleen Joe Henry in the back of the pickup truck. And that was also like an aha moment, because his phone's hitting here at this time, this image is at this time, and it's at the location where the remains were found.
Ahora, los detectives creen tener causa probable. Pero hay un problema. Brian ni siquiera está en Alaska. Está de vacaciones con su esposa en Washington, D.C., así que los investigadores planean todo cuidadosamente. Los agentes se posicionan en el aeropuerto. En cuanto Brian aterrice de nuevo en Alaska, será detenido y llevado a prisión.
Obviously, we're here at the airport. They brought you up here to talk to me, so we have some kind of a formality to get by. I have to read you what's called a Miranda warning. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Brian dice que lo entiende, pero claramente lo han tomado por sorpresa. No sabe lo que tienen.
Like I said, we have some matters we need to clear up, and the thing we need to talk about is recently some property was brought to APD, and I was given that property as a little SD card, and I watched that SD card and I looked at it, and that's what I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
So what can you tell me? Because you mentioned the SD card and the GoPro camera, so what can you tell me about that?
Well, usually everything I record is stuff from my trips when I go out camping. That's why I got a GoPro. It's got a very high frame rate. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to capture, if you ever look on YouTube, you'll see the guys shooting through like latex or through bottles or something, and you can see the bullet going through.
Shooting a bullet?
Brian intenta reconducir la conversación hacia grabaciones de pasatiempos normales. Habla de grabar viajes y actividades al aire libre como si estuviera explicando contenido de YouTube. Pero los detectives no caen en la trampa, se mantienen al margen. Le dicen que la tarjeta SD los condujo hasta él.
Well, and so, like I said, this was brought to APD and given to me. And like I said, I viewed the images and the videos on that SD card.
Yeah.
And that's obviously that's how I got to you. That's how I figured out who you are.
Okay.
And that's what we need to clear up that matter of what's on that SD card.
Okay, what's on the card?
Los detectives comienzan con pasos más pequeños. Le muestran imágenes relacionadas con un vehículo que coincide con el suyo. Le preguntan sobre una estadía en un hotel. Le preguntan sobre una mujer a la que recogió y llevó a una habitación. Él admite parte de lo sucedido. Luego le muestran fotos de la mujer que aparece en las grabaciones.
I just wanted to show you these pictures, see if they would help you kind of refresh the girl from that night.
Mm-hmm. No, that's not her.
Not her?
Just short hair.
Short hair, okay.
Short hair, no.
Okay, all right.
She looks like a drug addict.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen this woman before?
No.
Pero los detectives ya cuentan con la estructura, marcas de tiempo, registros de hoteles, el contenido de la tarjeta SD y la voz. Así que explican cómo las pruebas digitales apuntan directamente hacia él.
The images led me to you. There was images on there that led me to you, and for multiple reasons. The truck, like I said, I knew that was your truck. You're saying that's your truck in the photographs. Mm-hmm. There's pictures of the Marriott. There's pictures of the Marriott, the hotel room on the GoPro, or excuse me, on that SD card. And that's how I knew it was that Marriott. It was the Midtown Marriott.
Okay.
And the pictures, I don't know, you probably know about this. I think you're into technology and stuff. Okay. Photographs, they have a time and date stamp. So the photographs are time and date stamped. So they basically, the photographs time and date stamp matched at the time that you were at that hotel room.
Okay.
So that's how this SD card has led me to you.
Okay.
And like I said, there's a number of images on there, and there's a number of videos on there, and I brought some of the pictures to kind of go over with you about that. So this is one of the images on there. Part of it is kind of cut down a little bit, but can you tell me what's in that photo?
There's somebody's feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whose feet are those?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm looking at your shoe. I mean, it looks like the shoes you're wearing right now.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Entonces los detectives van más allá.
These are just some of the other images on there.
Okay.
These are on the SD card.
Okay.
So what can you tell me about these photos?
This looks like someone that's already been beaten up a bit.
Okay. And these are images. These are images, but there's also videos of this person.
Yeah.
And another person in the room as well. And that's why we're here to talk to you about.
How many people in the room?
At least 2.
Oh. Yeah.
So we need to address this. We need to clear this up.
Okay.
Mr. Smith.
Esa pregunta es otra señal reveladora, porque ya no pregunta ¿qué es esto?, sino ¿cuánto viste? Y cuando finalmente se da cuenta de que los detectives también están relacionando la voz, entra en pánico.
You think I hit this girl?
Well, like I said, there's videos of it. There's video of it, there's audio of it, there's a voice I've been talking to you now for almost 30, 40 minutes. And I know it was your voice I could hear in the video.
Okay.
And if you'd like to hear some of that, I can refresh your memory with it.
And the same pictures are on the SD card with your truck that you said was your truck.
Yeah, these are all on the same as your truck here, so.
It sounds like me. What's happening when that's...
What's happening is on this video, on these images, the person that's recording it is holding the recorder and is standing basically above this girl and strangling her.
Okay.
And so we need to talk about this. We need to get ahead of this, Mr. Smith.
I don't want to act stupid, but I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything.
Ahora recurre al clásico muro de recuerdos, pero los detectives no lo aceptan porque han visto los vídeos y saben que él es quien narra en ellos.
And so you talking and like I said, there's about 12 of these videos, and I've watched every single one of them multiple times, unfortunately. And you talking, you know what you're doing in those videos. I mean, you're describing what's going on in those videos. And so, Mr. Smith, I don't believe that you don't remember this happening. And like I said, we need to talk. We need to get ahead of this because this is pretty big here.
Yeah, but this is not the girl I picked up.
Mismo tiempo, los detectives obtienen información sobre sus movimientos a través de los registros telefónicos. Los datos sitúan su teléfono cerca de la autopista Seward, cerca de la misma zona donde se encontraron los restos. Además, las cámaras de vigilancia captan su camioneta dirigiéndose hacia allí. Ante la constante negación de Brian, los detectives insisten en la lógica.
I don't remember anything else. Really, I'm sorry.
I think you do remember it, Mr. Smith, and and like I said, we need to talk about it because right now, this right here is a small portion of this investigation, but this is just a small part of a very large investigation, and we're talking to people. We're talking to your wife, okay?
When have you spoken to her?
We're talking to her right now.
Right now.
Esa es una táctica de presión, y funciona, porque después de eso Brian cambia de postura. Se da cuenta de que las paredes se le vienen encima, y de repente empieza a contar una historia.
Yeah, well, look, this sounds very serious. No matter what, I'm going to be in deep. So, okay, I'll tell you what I remember. The next day at work, I saw something dripping out the back of my truck. And I was like, what? And I opened up, and there was somebody there underneath stuff. There was a blue, like a top at the back of my truck. And the back flap doesn't really lock. I've actually put a padlock on now since then. And I saw somebody, and I was like, what must I do? What must I do? And because I've been out before, I thought, who's going to believe me? It's like the guy that gets stopped and he's got drugs in his pocket and it's like, it's not mine, that's the way I was feeling, no one's going to believe me. So I was thinking for a long time, what must I do? And then the one night I thought, well, I've got to get rid of this, I can't. And I drove out and I did.
Este es el momento de la contradicción. Lo describe como si le hubiera sucedido a él, y no como si lo hubiera hecho, como si hubiera encontrado algo y entrado en pánico, como si por arte de magia el camión tuviera un cadáver dentro. Pero luego, en una entrevista televisiva desde la cárcel, intenta reescribir también esa versión.
What was in the back of my truck was not Kathleen Henry. When I said to the police the body, It's because the police had told me that there was a body in the back of my truck. I did not know what was in the back of my truck. It was not a body. It was, I've seen a YouTube once of a bear cub that was skinned, and it looked, in my mind, X-ray vision through that, that's what that could have been, or it was a mannequin.
El problema es que esa excusa no borra las marcas de tiempo, no borra las señales de la torre de telefonía, no borra los registros del hotel y desde luego no borra sus propias grabaciones.
Why didn't you, when you saw it dripping out of the back of your truck, and
I was scared.
if you didn't remember what happened, why didn't you call somebody and say, hey, there's somebody in the back of my truck?
Well, that's the thing. Who would believe me? It's like I said. It's like the guy walking around. Police found drugs in his pocket. And he says, "No, it's not mine." And everybody says, "Oh, yes, we believe you." It's the same thing. Who would have believed me that I found something in the back of my truck?
On the same SD card that has all these photos on it and videos of you killing her. So tell me how a body can be found in the back of your truck randomly while you're at work, because you want us to believe somebody else put that body in there. And then you just happen to drive it out there, and there's photographs
On the same SD card.
on the same SD card of this woman in the back of your truck with the sheets that are on that card.
Tras escuchar eso, la defensa de no. Recuerdo empieza a sonar menos a confusión y más a estrategia. Los detectives entonces sacan a relucir otro tema, sus búsquedas.
While you were on your trip, another thing that you were looking up is basically making a confession to the police on your deathbed. Something you Googled, something you were searching. Can you tell me about that?
I did not do that.
Well, it was in your search history on your Google.
I did not search making a confession on my deathbed. I did not do that.
Anybody else have your phone while you were gone?
No. My wife and myself were together. She doesn't know how to use a phone at all. No, I did not Google it. Whoever told you that is telling you a lie.
Pero una vez más, el patrón se repite. Lo niega. Desvía la atención. Afirma que alguien más lo hizo. Afirma que no lo recuerda. Afirma que no lo buscó. Entonces los detectives reproducen más grabaciones y lo observan detenidamente.
I just cannot understand why I would do something like this. And that's what your question is. Why would I do that?
I mean, we know you did it. You know you did it. We're just looking for, and there may not be a why that you think is reasonable, right?
Yeah.
But there is a why as to what happened. We might not know why it happened, but you know what happened. You're gonna see what happened. You're gonna see what you did.
I just don't know why would I get angry like that?
Because you're not angry.
Yeah. So you said
No, you're very calculated. You're narrating it.
Why would I say I've got an audience?
I'm not saying that you have an audience, but you're clearly talking to.
Yeah.
You're not just talking to her. What do you think up until that point?
That girl's dying.
En ese momento se le cae la máscara. Aunque intente disimular su confusión, sigue reaccionando como alguien que reconoce lo que está sucediendo. Y entonces los detectives preguntan por el camión.
The one thing I wanted to ask you is your truck. Did you ever wash it out, spray it out, anything like that?
After
you
you
dumped
done
the
it.
body.
Are we going to find biological evidence in your truck? Did you bleach it? Did you wash it?
At the back, I had a piece of carpeting at the back, and there was a bit of blood on it. So I cut that piece of carpet out and I tossed it in a dumpster. And I did spray bleach on there to try and kill the germs and whatever.
Y justo cuando parece que la entrevista está llegando a su fin, Brian suelta otra, confesión que da pie a un segundo asesinato.
Some time ago, I don't remember when, I picked up a very drunk girl. My wife was gone. She was away for the weekend. I took her home, and I shot her. And I know you guys are doing the good cop, bad cop. I know I'm gonna burn already. So, and I don't want you to have to waste your time.
We appreciate that.
But yeah, so I shot this girl and then I I went and dumped her out on that little side road going towards Butte. When you turn off the highway.
By the Exclutant power plant?
Yeah, around about that area, yeah. You must have found her.
You may have.
Yeah.
How long ago was that about?
Oh my God, 2, 3, maybe 3 years ago.
Verónica Abuchuk, de 52 años, una nativa de Alaska que había desaparecido años atrás. Los investigadores vincularon la confesión con restos hallados previamente, incluyendo un cráneo encontrado cerca de la zona de Old Glen Highway que presentaba una herida de bala. A partir de ahí, el caso se complicó. Órdenes de registro, dispositivos digitales, evidencia de su casa y camioneta, más corroboración, más pruebas. E incluso después de todo esto, Brian seguía intentando retractarse en entrevistas posteriores.
The person that I shot was a fictitious event. It was not Veronica. Veronica, if that lady was Veronica, that woman walked out of my house, Alicia and her got in the vehicle and they drove away. The story I told them was a story that Alicia and I had made up about driving around, you meet someone and take them home, they make you angry and you shoot them.
Pero para cuando el caso llegó a juicio, las pruebas eran abrumadoras. Tras deliberar, el 22 de febrero de 2024, un jurado de Anchorage declaró a Brian Steven Smith culpable de los 14 cargos, incluyendo múltiples cargos relacionados con asesinato y otros delitos graves vinculados a la investigación. El 12 de julio de 2024, un juez lo sentenció a 226 años de prisión. Y en retrospectiva, no fue un solo hecho lo que lo delató. Eran 3 detalles inquietantes que se conectaban como una cadena. Las grabaciones secretas, donde su propia voz se lo decía, la cronología, las fechas en el hotel, las contradicciones fatales y el rastro digital, las señales de la torre de telefonía, las marcas de tiempo y los archivos que lo ubicaban, repetidamente en los mismos lugares, a las mismas horas. Ahora bien, la pregunta que aún persiste en este caso, incluso después del veredicto, es: ¿esta fue realmente la historia completa o solo la parte que grabó? Deja tu opinión en los comentarios. Y si quieres ver más documentales como este que analizan casos paso a paso, dale me gusta al video y suscríbete para no perderte nada.